like, and as we continue to have meetings about that. And finally, what we're all here for is talk about the mall. Okay? So without further ado, I'll let those individuals introduce themselves and give their information. So we'll begin with Renee Hammond.
Deputy Mayor Pro Tem Wilson, that when he told me that he wanted to do a meeting like this, we thought it would be important just to give a brief overview of what Grow South is. And when I say brief, I mean extremely brief. And then I'm going to, if it's okay, save some of my time for some questions right now. I know you're going to do questions later, but I have to go to another Grow South meeting in Pleasant Grove. And if I don't show up to Pleasant Grove, they're really going to treat me bad because they say I'm always in Oak Cliff. So I have to show up to Pleasant Grove. So I'm a little partial to Southwest Center Mall, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. So to do what I'm asked, what is Grow South? I'm going to talk about it in two parts because that's kind of how it's going. I'll talk a little bit about the intro, what it was, how it was introduced, what the mayor was thinking, and then more so what we're doing now and how we're running the initiative as it is. So it was started in 2011 when Mayor Rollins was elected, and I'm giving you all this. Some of you all that heard me speak, I apologize, you're hearing it again, but some people haven't, so I got to give it for everybody. In 2011, when Mayor Rollins was elected, he realized that Southern Dallas accounted for 54% of the land mass, but less than 15% of the tax base in the city of Dallas. And he realized that was a big opportunity that he had as mayor. He says a lot of times people sometimes want to be something just to say they're something, or you can be something to do something. And that's what he wanted to do with his time as mayor, is how do we increase the tax base of Southern Dallas. So in this last year, we're 4 years into Grow South. We had our 3-year update in April. And the big story that we pushed out with that was that since his election in 2011, the tax base in Southern Dallas was still at 15% because North Dallas has grown by leaps and bounds. If you've ever been to Uptown or anything north of 30, it's still growing, but Southern Dallas had not stood still in the process. Southern Dallas has now increased by $1 billion in our tax base this year. So that's the big story. It's working, but how is it working? What is Grow South? So let's first define what Southern Dallas is for the program. I always think that's good so people know and have a perspective of what we consider Southern Dallas. It's south of the Trinity on the west side, so it includes West Dallas, and then it's south of 30 on the east side, so it includes Pleasant Grove. Also, if you're downtown, it's anything south of Main Street. So Main, Commerce, and go south. So that's why the Cedars is included in what we're considering Southern Dallas. So how do we measure ourselves? There are 17 what we call community indicators. I was like, the name just escaped me. That we measure in 9 areas of Southern Dallas that are like peak points, and we look at 17 different things that deal with 3 different levels. One level is commitment. How committed is the neighborhood to what's going on, resilience, how resilient is the neighborhood, and then amenities. And each one of those 17 categories fall into one of those 3 areas. Then what we do is we say, okay, we compare that from year to year to year, those numbers. Those numbers we usually get from different sources that our Economic Development Department does. And that report is available on the mayor's website. If you're interested in seeing more in depth what that is, that's available. So that's how we grade ourselves every year. And the good thing is this year we had more green than we had red last year, so it's moving. Now, how do we do that? Originally, when he started the initiative, it was 10 goals. Strengthening neighborhoods. Stronger neighborhoods lead to better economic development. Culture of clean, number 2. The mayor likes to say cleanliness is next to godliness, but it's also next to economic development. People want to do business where it's clean. Number 3, strengthen schools. People move to areas and pay taxes in homes where there are strong schools. Number 4, debunking myths and rebranding. In 2011, when the mayor first took office, he learned a lot about Southern Dallas, and he realized there were a lot of myths that weren't necessarily true. And so some people will say, okay, well, there's still those myths out there. So what he focused his attention on that first 4 years, I would say, is towards the business community, because this was an economic development plan. So he said, how can I let the business community know that Southern Dallas's favorite, one of his favorite phrases is, Southern Dallas is an investment opportunity, not a charity case. And I love that, and I carry that everywhere we go. This is a money-making place. This is a place where you can come and make money and do business. So what he did is he hired, or Grow South commissioned Allen Media to do some campaigns in the business journals and different business entities and different business radio stations to promote economic development in Southern Dallas. And I can say that has truly worked. I will testament to that because my phone rings every day. People are always saying, I want to open a business in Southern Dallas. Now, I'm not going to tell a story. Sometimes it's not the business we want in Southern Dallas, but a lot of people want to do business in Southern Dallas. Then number 5 was establish the private investment fund. Basically, when he was first elected, and this is how I break it down. This isn't the technical term. This is, people always call me and say, give me some, can I get some of that Grow South money? And I say, are you talking about the private investment fund? Yeah, and I say, it doesn't work like that. This is gap mezzanine funding. What was happening when elected was, if you went to borrow money to open up a business in Northern Dallas, you could get 80% of your project funded. The bank would loan you 80% to do your project. Well, when you came to Southern Dallas to open a business, the bank would only loan you about 40 to 50% of your project. So the mayor realized there needed to be some type of investment fund, gap financing for people who wanted to do business in Southern Dallas but wanted their project funded at the same rate. So that's what this gap financing does. It helps to make creative plans for development to come to Southern Dallas. We recently closed the first fund at $30.5 million in August. That fund, we haven't made an investment yet with it, but I am told, because this is a private fund, if you've read the Dallas Morning News, we don't have any control over it, so you still can't call me for that Grow South money, because I don't have it. It's not under my desk. I wish it was. But with that fund, I'm told they will be making an investment, hopefully by the beginning of the year, with that money in Southern Dallas. So it had, and this fund, let me say this, I'll say this briefly, it has a double bottom line. So it's not just what is the return on investment for the investors, but also what type of community impact does it bring as well. So I always like to give the example, let's say it's an area of Southern Dallas that doesn't have a grocery store, and it's in a food desert, and the fund invests in the grocery store. Then that serves both that bottom line, because it's an investment, whatever the return is on that grocery store, as well as it's serving a community need, because that community was in the need of a grocery store. But let's say it's building, they invest in a multi-tenant housing development where there's already multi-tenant housing developments. So it doesn't really do anything for the community. There's no community impact. The fund has to figure out a way, the board of the fund has to figure out a way to make their profits benefit a community. It doesn't necessarily have to be that community. It could be another community. So once we start making investments and once we start seeing returns, hopefully we'll see some funds that we can use towards some other smaller projects. And then maybe you can call me and say, what are we doing with Grow South money? I still won't have control over it, but at least I can direct you to somebody that may have some. So that's one thing. That's number 5. 6 through 10, I'm not going to belabor you going through. Those are just areas of Southern Dallas. Basically, the mayor's a big person on, let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's just grow on the wheel that's already going. When he became mayor, these areas that Mayor Leopard had already kind of started some development in Southern Dallas, and he said, how can I build upon that momentum and continue what my predecessor started? So those areas are West Dallas, we call it downtown, near out downtown. The Cedars is what most of us from Dallas kind of consider it. Education Corridor, Lancaster Corridor, and Jefferson Boulevard. So those are the other 5 areas that are the 5 points on the scorecard if you've ever seen the Grow South scorecards. And I have a few extras that I'll leave here for you all once I leave if you're interested. So on the back of them, this is the new stuff that I said I was going to talk about. So this is what we did for 4 years. This is how the mayor graded himself and looked at it and did his goals. Well, this year we wanted to do something a little different. He was, as I said, it was in April, so it was right before re-election. And he said, okay, what can I do now to up it and kind of make more of an impact with this Grow South thing? So he said, I want to focus on 4 areas. And we're calling them the Grow South accelerators, 4 accelerators. The first thing is he created the Mayor's Grow South Advisory Council. Basically what he found was that we would get a lot of traction about Grow South in April when we did our update and in November when we did our mid-year update. But we really didn't know what people were thinking about or what was important until those times. So it made it hard to wait till the next year to kind of figure out what was happening. So we selected 20 people to go out into the community, and they are doing these Grow South meetings, just to let people know what is Grow South. Some people have never heard it, never heard of it, didn't know what it was, or heard of it, and still didn't really understand what it was. So that's what I have to leave and go to in Pleasant Grove, because one of my advisors, or 3 of them, are having a meeting in Pleasant Grove today in Spanish and in English. So we're excited about that. The second thing is the Grow South Collective Impact Model. This report went out in April. So I say that, so I let everybody know in April, Neighborhood Plus was not approved by council. But the mayor in his previous year had talked about Housing Plus, because that's what it was called. So this year we said we have to do something with it, Grow South, because we're private-public partnership. Grow South is funded by public dollars. Everything and all of our initiatives are privately funded. They're not city-funded initiatives. So what we said, he said, I have to do something with it because we've already talked about it last year. So we said, how can we bring this Neighborhood Plus idea into Grow South and kind of test it and see, is this really something the city should really pursue? And this was before it went to council and was briefed, and everybody got to argue about it and say what they liked, what they didn't like. It was just us saying how we could do it. So his idea was, let's put a private board together, once again, a nonprofit, let them create a nonprofit, and I'll get myself and some other city leaders, we'll sit around the table, and we will promise to break the silos of our different organizations and see if we can really work in some neighborhoods focused, really targeted on some issues, and let the neighborhood tell us what their issues are. So it should be a grassroots effort. So we basically had a couple of board meetings, and Larry James, he talked to Larry James to help him with this. And Larry James commissioned McKinsey Consulting, and they basically put together, and Richards Group, I should say, and the Richards Group, to help them with a logo, a name. So now this group, you guys have some hot off the press information, because this isn't coming out to Sunday. But they have a name called organization, 501c3, called Neighbor Up. And how that works is there were 3 neighborhoods chosen at the time. Parkdale, Urbandale, which is a transitional neighborhood. We say it was kind of on the tipping point. It could go one way or the other. Then we have the education corridor, which includes our 4-year universities in Southern Dallas, UNT Dallas, Paul Quinn, as well as Kathy Gillum, the collegiate school. And we're calling that our market ready area, because there is green space and it's ready with all the universities and things going on there for some economic development. And then our 3rd area is Lancaster Corridor, that being what we're calling our reinvestment area. So if you took the VA hospital and kind of drew a circle or a square around it, basically those are the 3 areas. So we came together, this Neighborhood Up organization is going to hire 3 general managers that each one will work in those neighborhoods to create neighborhood councils with the neighborhoods in that area to see what plan those neighborhoods, we're going to make the neighborhoods prioritize their issues. Basically, number 1, if number 1 is safety and security and we need more police, or we need more crime watch organizations, or we need whatever, that's what the general manager is going to make sure to work with that neighborhood to achieve. And we're thinking these are about 3 to 5 year plans. Hopefully some of them shorter. But basically develop a plan for the neighborhood and prioritize their needs based on such. So that is Neighbor Up. So it's listed as Grow South Collective Impact Model, but that name is changing to Neighbor Up. 3 is the High Impact Landlord Initiative. I don't know if you all have read the paper with the lawsuit against Topless. That, from the city of Dallas, that's one of the things that came out of this High Impact Landlord Initiative. Basically, what we did is we took DCAD, Dallas Central Appraisal District, information, and said if we put all of the properties that go from poor, very poor, or unsound in the city of Dallas, couple that with the people who are landlords by, I guess, by trade, this is their business, their way of doing business, they own 40 properties or more. So it's not like I own a house and then I rent a house, but I own more than 40 properties. And we put the ones that have a lot of 60% or more of their property base is in that poor, very poor, unsound. We came up with 8 names. And we took those 8 people, and the mayor personally met with 7 of the 8. Yes, I believe 7 of the 8. And of those 7, 5 signed a commitment card saying that they would work with the city to do better, to take care of their property, and they're going to work with us on plans. Well, one of them was Topless, and they were just out of control, and once we seen their numbers versus all the violations they had already had, the city attorney's office said, we're ready to pull the gun on this one and really work. And if you've seen the article in some of the houses, So then you'll know it really was time for us to do something. And we had enough evidence to do something, I should say. So that is kind of the fruit of the high impact landlord. And last but not least is the single family housing initiative, which is the initiative to build, basically, in 4 years, we have a group of people that have committed to build 1,500 new market rate homes in Southern Dallas. Market rate being $150,000 to $500,000 in Southern Dallas in the next 4 years. So far, there have been, I want to say to the tune of 150 built since April. And if we did a straight line projection, they still have a few more. They're a little off. That will put us like 1,200. But they have some plans, and we're meeting with them quarterly to make sure they stay on track to build these homes. In addition to this, we're going to start looking at how we use our land bank and how we can be more proactive in bringing middle class back to Southern Dallas. So those are the 4 initiatives, and I talked way too long and way too fast, but let me see if anybody has any questions or needs me to repeat anything if I was talking really fast and got confused.
What were the areas again that you're pinpointing?
From the neighbor up, okay, that is Parkdale, Urbandale, Education Corridor, and Lancaster Corridor. Anything else? That was it.
Are you suggesting that there are no middle class in Southern Dallas?
No, we're not suggesting. We're saying that if we're going to build a tax base, we need more middle class in Southern Dallas. Yes. No. It's plenty of middle class. That's District 3. Mr. Thomas loves that. I loved his line in council when he said, I have a district in Southern Dallas, and it's not a poor district. We're a middle class district. Right. I was like, you better speak. You show right. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
She may have answered, but you talked about the landlord with the non-profit. What about the business, bad business landlords, the commercial
strip
landlords?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, 'cause there's some people in the audience that can help with that. We have the businesses, it's a little bit, I hate to say it, it's a little bit easier than it is with what we're dealing with single family housing. But your community prosecutor, I seen him walk in. That's Jason Mathis, and is
It's South Central property she's talking about.
oh, South Central.
Like it's the Keys Court and Deer Pack.
Oh, now I know community prosecution has worked on that area. Opal, do you know a little bit more what's going on with Deer Path? Because I know you worked on it a while ago. And this is Opal. She's one of the code officers of community prosecution. She works Southwest now, but she was South Central for a long time. So I'm going to use her.
Jim Chestnut, the community prosecutor that was here,
Right. He's
worked
gone.
that area, and they had several cases going on in that area. And what's going on now, I can't say, but they were working in that area.
And he's been transferred, and they're in the process of hiring someone to replace him, so that maybe if it's flared up again, that's
From where?
probably where. Huh?
Transfer from or to from South Central?
Yes, he's left South Central to go to litigation.
He's the best one we've had since we got her. By far.
Well, Jason has something to add.
Just to clarify, he's actually left community prosecution.
And that's it? All right, so one last one.
I'm kind of all over the place on this, okay?
Oh, okay.
But I see one challenge in our city and out where we live. The roadways are getting more populated, and they're not widening, they're not getting improved. And I think if we're going to get economic development in our city, we need to consider the structure of our roadways, increasing them, improving them, signalization, and so forth. And I live here all my life, and I don't see anything developing in my area out in the southeast.
And that's the perfect person to talk about it right here.
That is a great segue. I appreciate you bringing that up. But first, I want to acknowledge a couple of people that have walked in. See one of my colleagues, Lee Kleiman. Partner in crime on several different committees. Good guy, great ally, and Yvonne Davis, Representative Yvonne Davis. Anybody else sneak in on me? Oh, Miss Diane Gibson.
Miss Community.
All right, and great, that was a great segue, because the next thing we're going to talk about is exactly that, roads. I have the perfect person that can help us with that. Without further ado, I bring to you Mr. Michael Morris. Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem, can you hear me okay? Just if I've been giving remarks all day, so if my voice goes down lower, please just raise your hand and I'll speak louder. Mayor Pro Tem, thank you very much for the invitation. This is a completely new day, and I hope to outline the momentum that we're doing on transportation. And it really is a partnership. Councilman, I think it started with a lot of hard work on sort of like a big machete blazing a whole new trail, and a lot of the work we did down at the double iPod, the intermodal facility. With the mayor's effort, he wants to continue that particular momentum. It's nice that Representative Davis is here because we have a lot of partnership with the state, and John is our partner at TxDOT, and TxDOT's a state agency, so this quickly gets complicated when you want to fund this item. And for Mr. Kleiman to be here, far from home, as your city transportation chair, I think he realizes how close we are to this mega partnership that we have for Dallas, and I'd like to lay it out, if I could, for you this evening. So you have the major horseshoe project going on downtown, and then we have the SM Wright project, which is going to connect 175 over to 45. And I really don't have time to get into those today. But I do want to bring really a quick overview to two projects. The first one is Southern Gateway. Southern Gateway, Senator West was the chair of it, state senator. It's Interstate 35E from the southern limit of the horseshoe all the way down to Interstate 20 and US 67, basically from the merge at 35 by the airport all the way down to the southern city limits of Cedar Hill. It's the #1 project in the eastern side of the region, and has been for some time. And we are now on the verge of getting it funded. We plan as a staff to go to the Regional Transportation Council in January of 2016 to fund the Southern Gateway project for $600 million. And I think there are 4 elements to it that I think are critical. The first is any improvements to US 67 that we can do to provide better access to this particular location will be included in the work that John is doing with TxDOT on the Southern Gateway project. Now, most of the improvement is going to come on the Interstate 20 side, but whatever accessibility improvement we can have for this location, it's going to come in the Southern Gateway project. Number 2, to make sure we don't have what we call leapfrog investment, where we have a #1 project ready to go, and then because of a change in policy or rules in Washington or Austin, somehow a project gets leapfrogged and a different project goes to construction. Because of the success of Proposition 7, we are not going to toll any elements of the Southern Gateway project and proceed with a partnership with TxDOT and the Regional Transportation Council to advance the $600 million without a toll component at all. On the express lanes of Southern Gateway. So, no toll component. I think it'll help us with regard to transportation, and it'll help, I believe, with this community and the mayor's initiative to grow south as part of that project. The third component that I think is critical is with regard to developing a Clyde Warren Park pedestrian cap light project just north of the zoo to, again, create an economic node. So we have one north of downtown and one south of downtown, and to bring some of the signature elements, the architectural features you see on the Margaret Hunt Hill Bridge and the Margaret McDermott Bridge. We're bringing that to John's project on the Southern Gateway as part of this particular initiative. So access to 67, no toll component, create a pedestrian node, create a pedestrian mixed-use node, and invest $600 million. And it's the Regional Transportation Council's hope that we're not only building a mobility project and not only getting rid of the Zhang curve and creating a safety project, but we're creating it with a high design standard that creates economic development as we continue to head south. So I'm focusing on this project as a north-south improvement. The second subject I want to touch on, and John will give you more details on that. The second subject I want to touch on, which is really the purpose of the meeting tonight, is improvements to the Interstate 20 corridor. So Bill Hale, the former district engineer, and I went to the Regional Transportation Council probably 8 years ago and said, we have this very odd, unfair situation that LBJ in the north has frontage roads and Interstate 20 on the south does not. And we went to the Regional Transportation Council and said, we would like to provide additional frontage roads on Interstate 20. And you've seen a lot of frontage roads and interchanges go in on the Interstate 20 corridor, and you have seen economic development occur at those particular locations. Because our contention was, if you provide better access to the adjacent land next to the freeway, there'll be more opportunities for economic development to occur. It's clear it's happening on LBJ North. It wasn't occurring on Interstate 20. It should have occurred. And we have initiated probably close to $100 million worth of improvements on the Interstate 20 corridor. Now focusing back again on this location, and John will give you more details. We met with the Mayor Pro Tem to talk about what improvements do we need to make to Interstate 20. This was the mall when my daughter was born. This is the mall my wife and I shopped at. We happen to be Arlington residents. Our office is in Arlington. I have 16 counties of responsibility, so I live in the center of the region. Moved into my house in 1984, and this was our mall that we would walk, with a new child looking for everything, furniture to clothes that you could afford, trying to buy a house and doing those particular things. So I got here a little early, and I just want you to know I shopped again today.
Thank you.
And we can either provide millions of dollars of accessibility, John, or we can buy a few presents while we're here. But we really need to focus on the area from 67 near the just west, just south of this particular location. It has a very awkward access to the thoroughfare systems. As you know, when you get off Interstate 20, you end up often going backwards and sideways, traveling on the thoroughfare system. And it can be corrected with additional frontage roads. So we got to be careful because we have existing businesses on these frontage roads that are expecting the entrance and exit ramps to be in a certain location. So we have to do a lot of hand holding. And John will walk you through the process. But our staff, TxDOT staff, and others are going to bring an initiative to potentially build frontage roads just west and potentially through the 67 interchange. And we may have to adjust the entrance and exit ramps to eliminate what is a very awkward way to get to this particular location. Yes, it's important that we help with economic development too, but what we want to do is develop a more reliable freeway system. It is not uncommon to be stuck in traffic on Interstate 20 without continuous frontage roads and don't have a reliability to get to your final destination. And I know when my daughter was living in Shreveport as a journalist, I would come home on Sunday after visiting her, get stuck in southern Dallas, say, oh gee, I'm the transportation director for the region, come flying off on a ramp, say, well, I'm going to head north on this thoroughfare street. There's got to be an east-west thoroughfare street. There isn't. Turn back down, head south of the interstate highway. There isn't. You're blocked by the river, or you're blocked by something. And we really need to continue this initiative to balance mobility on the freeway system, safety on the freeway system, economic development opportunities by continuing to look at the equity of investments of transportation on the frontage roads, both in the southern sector, similar to what you have in the northern sector. We are going to bring additional transportation in and around University of North Texas Dallas campus. You have a light rail investment that's going there. You have horrible roadway access to land parcels in that location. It's an embarrassment that the light rail system beat us to the transportation accessibility. So we're going to continue to look at opening opportunities around the University of North Texas Dallas campus. We hope to bring an aviation college to that particular location as part of science, technology, engineering, and math to this region. And then, of course, we'll continue to look at improvements in and around the intermodal facility. So the intermodal facility becomes a hub. The Interstate 20 frontage road becomes a hub. This location becomes a hub. Southern Gateway becomes a hub. The improvements to the SM Wright project creates a hub. Lots of transportation investment occurring. There needs to be continued meetings. I think this is maybe John's third or fourth, my second or third community meeting on these subjects. Lots of things we wish to happen extremely quickly because we do not want leapfrog investments made above our #1 priority, which is the Southern Gateway project. I'm going to stop there, let John give his remarks because we're a team, and then Mayor, we'll take any questions people have with regard to transportation.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Pro Tem, for having us here. I've gone out and done multiple public forum with the public on the Southern Gateway project. And thank you, Mr. Mike Morris, for being a good partner with TxDOT. Without North Central Texas Council of Government, it's really hard for TxDOT to move project forward. So we very much appreciate your help. I want to give a quick overview of Southern Gateway. Like Mr. Morris have indicated, the Horseshoe project, which is currently under construction in downtown, it ends about where Colorado and 8th Street. So that project is scheduled to be complete in 2017. We like the Southern Gateway project to pick up where that ends and start around 2017 if we can. And the funding mechanism is very important for us to have that continue and be a seamless. So we don't want to inconvenience you know, on and off. We want to be a seamless construction all the way south. That having said, when we go out and talk to the public multiple times in multiple forums, we heard from you. We know that the toll issue is a very strong opinion, and the region also hear that. So like Mr. Morris has indicated, the scope of Southern Gateway now does not include a toll component in it. So we're going to do a total reconstruction of 35E, pick up where the Horseshoe is, and proceed down south toward the split of 67, and then further down on 35E till we get to about I-20. At the same time, the US 67 leg from 35E merged going all the way down to Cedar Hill. Again, the project scope has been modified since I've last given you an update. One of the modifications of the scope is we're breaking out a lower piece of US 67, which is from I-20 down to FM 1382 or Beltline. We're moving that out as a separate project because it's more strategic for us to attack that as a design bid build project and have dedicated funding for it. And that project also will not have a toll component. We're basically going to add a third lane capacity improvement for it. And then we'll look at different intersection improvement as well to better operation on 67. Now, as far as 67 from I-20 north to the 35E split, that section will also have a third lane addition. Currently, there's 2 lanes. I know there's 3 from the split down to Loop 12. That's because of the ramp from Loop 12, and then when you go through Loop 12, that third lane drops off. So we're going to add the third lane from Loop 12 all the way down, so you get additional capacity for that section. We also will total reconstruct 35E, just as Mr. Morris said. A more different approach from TxDOT is that we're now listening more to the public. We know that economic development is important. Livability is also important. We hear a lot about multimodal, bicycle pedestrian access will promote neighborhood modes of transportation across the freeway. So the project itself, we're looking at wider bridges that provide wider sidewalks to promote that. and better access for neighborhood, connecting neighborhood from east and west. Mr. Mike Morris also indicated that we're also looking into evaluating a deck park in the northern part of 35E, just north of the zoo. Our design team is currently looking at the feasibility design of it, see if it can fit within the design itself. I know that the deck park itself is going to take a lot more to get it to happen, but TxDOT will do our part in the design and make sure that deck park can happen if money is available.
I want to address your question. I want to start off by, and I'm really not doing this to kiss up to the elected officials here, but I want to make it, but it's going to sound that way. I want to make an observation, which is, I've lived in Dallas for 20 years, and I've had almost no interaction with our city government. And since I've gotten into my new venture here, I've had a lot of interaction with the city government. And I really want you guys to know as citizens, from my perspective, I've been really, really impressed. And you've got some very, very hardworking people that you've elected who are really doing their best to make things better. So I want to thank Deputy Mayor Pro Tem Wilson. Vinay Hammond, the list goes on and on, because they really want this project to succeed. I don't have experience with a lot of other projects, but this project, they really wanted it to succeed, and I've just found my whole experience with them has been about solving problems, removing obstacles, and it's been terrific. So with that, what I wanted to accomplish tonight, within the context of everyone still wanting to be out of here by 8, I want to tell you exactly what my plans are, but a lot of what my plans are going to depend on the feedback that I get. And this is probably, I don't know, the 30th or 40th meeting, one of the larger meetings. Some of them have been one-on-one, some of them have been large. But I've been meeting consistently with the community to try to get feedback about what it is that this community wants at this mall. Because I'm very well aware that if I just come in and start deciding this needs to go here and let me tell you what you want, that's not going to work. And so that's really not the approach. So what I want to do is take 2 minutes, tell you who I am, why I did this, what my motives are, what the approach is, and then really get into what we want to do here. So
You want to fix the light?
yeah, we're going to fix the light. I was born in New York City. I was raised in New York City. I moved here in 1995, expecting to be here for a year, and I'm still here. I moved down here for a job. My job worked out well. About 6 months into being here, I met a girl. We've now been married for 18 and a half years. We have 3 kids, and this is where we decided to make our life. And so I really love this city, and I'm committed to living here. This is my home now. I spent about the first 14 or 15 years really doing just a few things: working, getting married, creating a family, trying to establish myself. I worked for a private equity firm called Hicks Muse, and I worked there for 15 years, and I was very, very, very fortunate. I did really well there, and I'm a big believer that a lot of success in life has to do with luck and timing. You have to take advantage of opportunities, but you have to be given the opportunities to take advantage of, and I was given a lot of opportunities, and I'm incredibly grateful. And around 2009 or 2010, I sort of looked up and said, well, I don't really know much about this city. I'd like to learn more. And in the process of doing that, I did Leadership Dallas. I started getting involved with education. I realized that Southern Dallas was a really, really underserved part of the city. I became the board chair of a charter school group called KIP. We've got 2 schools right across the street, and I've been the board chair there for 5 years. We've grown from 1 school in the Lancaster Key Shopping Center. We now have 4 schools. We'll open our 5th in Pleasant Grove next year. We'll have 2,000 kids. we really feel like we're making an impact in terms of providing quality school options for kids in underserved areas. Now, why am I telling you all that? First of all, because I never go anywhere without talking about kids. But it's relevant because that's how I came to this opportunity. I've spent a lot of time in South Oak Cliff. First at Lancaster East, and then in the Redwood area when we opened up in the shopping center across the street. And I'm down here, for a while I was running the organization, I was officing at the Lancaster East Shopping Center. I'm down here, anywhere from 2 to 5 days a week. And I've gotten to know politicians, I've gotten to know the church leaders, I've gotten to know ordinary families who send their kids to the schools. And I just kept thinking, there's nothing here but check cashing. There's no retail options. And it's disgraceful, and it's also stupid, because there's a lot of people with money here. I mean, sir, you made the point about middle-class neighborhoods. There's a lot of people who live in southern Dallas, and a lot of people who live south of southern Dallas in the southern suburbs that have a lot of money to spend, and no one has taken advantage of that commercial opportunity. And so Vinay talked earlier about the Grow South Fund being a double bottom line fund, and I really look at this as a double bottom line opportunity, because I'm definitely in this to make money. Make no doubt about it, this is a for-profit venture for me. This is not a philanthropic venture at all. However, what I am committed to doing is doing it in a way that is positive for this community. And I'm doing that because I care about the community, but I'm also doing that because I think that's the biggest economic, financial opportunity that's involved here. People have tried to suck out the cash from this place and not reinvest in it. They've been doing that for years and years and years. And it's a waste. The mall today is a shadow of what it used to be. A lot better than it was 5 or 6 years ago. Thanks to Ms. Pemberton, thanks to Lisa Long, the general manager. They've done a good thing. Tanel Atkins was critical in that effort. So it's gotten better, but it's nowhere near what it needs to be. And to me, this is about the long term. This is not about making a buck in the first year or the first 2 years. This is about investing a lot of money, creating a world-class asset, and then reaping the benefits long down the road. So I've never done a real estate venture. I've never done anything in retail. I've done a lot of deals. I know how to structure deals. I know how to finance them, and I've surrounded myself with a lot of advisors who know the things that I don't know. But I know one thing, and I feel like I really understand this community. I feel like and what I don't know, I'm eager to learn. So what's the vision for this mall? In short, it's a quality retail and entertainment venue, and it's got to be more modern in terms of how shopping centers are today. It's got to have mixed use. It's got to have residential. I would love to have office if there's a market for that. I would love to have hotel event. I mean, this is going to happen over a series of years. The first thing we have to do is deal with the retail experience here. So just so you're oriented, what I've bought, I'm going to just advance the slides just to show you a map.
Yes. Would you like now?
Actually, you don't really need to.
Okay.
Hold on. Anchors, right? There's the closed Dillard's and the closed JCPenney. There's Macy's, Sears, and Burlington Coat Factory. What I've bought is the mall and its parking lots, the empty JCPenney's lot, and the empty Dillard's lot. So it's about half of the mall. It's about 52 acres out of 90. And Macy's, Sears, and Burlington Coat Factory are still open. They still want to be here. I'm flying up to Cincinnati tomorrow to have my 3rd meeting with Macy's. They are very excited about what we're doing, and I really believe that they're going to recommit here, and they understand that their store needs to be completely redone. They understand that. They just haven't had a mall owner. They haven't wanted to invest because the mall wasn't being invested in, and they weren't sure the mall was going to make it. So they haven't promised anything, but they're very intrigued. So the first thing we need to do is get Macy's to recommit. We need to figure out what Sears is going to be doing, right? And we need to really upgrade those experiences. We need to re-tenant the Dillard's, right? Either that or knock it down and create a movie theater, but we need to deal with the anchors, right? first that. So those are the things we're working on at the moment. We really want to bring in a high quality grocer into the area. I met with the primary retail broker for Kroger's today. And they have a 120,000 square foot concept that is fantastic. We've got nothing but empty parking lot here. There's plenty of room for anything they want to do. And we would like to be talking to several different types of grocers. You know, fantasize a little bit. A Whole Foods, a Central Market, a 365. I mean, the thing is, one of the things that Benet said really hit home, which is there are so many misconceptions about this area. I have never been called stupid more times in my life than when I told my friends in North Dallas what I was going to do. Because what did they tell me? Oh, the mall's closed. Or it's open, but there's gangs marauding around with guns, you're going to get killed. Or no one has any money down there. I know. Nobody has any money down there. Oh, it sure is. This is the lowest crime rate of any mall in the country. But that's not the perception. And somebody said to me the other day, boy, I wish you had a real problem instead of a perception problem with safety. Because real problems are easy to solve. Perception problems are hard to solve. So I was able to overcome those perception problems because I've been down here so much, and I went and I was like, this isn't unsafe. This is fine. And it's not closed, and it's clean.